Hi everyone, today I played some rapid games at Leeches and I won almost every game and my rating increased by more than 100 points, and that was fun because I didn't play rapid for a year at Leeches, and for that reason my rating was lower than my actual power. In the last year I learned quite a bit about openings and I improved a lot, and I expect my rapid go to 2500 or something like that, hopefully. I want to share with you one of the games today and discuss why some people collapse during the game. This is a game that I played with white pieces and it is Sicilian game against Sicilian Kalashnikov variation. This game. And my opponent, as is written is in his profile, is a 22 something federated player. So he's a good player, like a candidate master level. And even close to FIDE master. And this is the last position of the game and position of the game that he resigned. But he collapsed. And I want to show you why he collapsed. This is a Sicilian Kalashnikov variation. We start with a standard Sicilian, and after this, black pushes e5. This e5 forces only one direction. If white wants to play active, should go forward, so knight b5 is forced, and therefore avoids many complicated opening traps and plans in a standard Sicilian defense style like knight or dragon. And then black usually plays d6. This d6 move is somehow forced. For example, if black wants to be a little bit greedy and force white to go backward, plays a6 for example, white doesn't go backward, white just says check and black is forced to exchange beautiful black scored bishop with the knight. And right now the position of black is really bad because it has a backward pawn, backward d pawn. Also doesn't have bishop pair. Also the e pawn is advanced without any support. Just some piece support without any pawn support. And any pawn support, adding any pawn support to that is not interesting, like playing pawn f6, that's not good, or exchanging queen, playing pawn d6 again is not good. So black position is not good, and for that reason they play d6 immediately to prevent knight d6. My opponent played a standard d6 move, and then there are several moves here, like c4 is another move, but I played as knight c3 because I want to force a6. Looks a little bit sick, but why it forces a6? Because I'm saying that I want to jump to d5 and then go to c7 and give a check and win rook, win an exchange. It's okay, it's not that easy that I'm explaining, but it's not much more difficult than what I explained. For example, let's say they don't play a6, they play knight there. Engine says that immediately go there, then this transpose to a standard knight of variations. And actually, eventually the game transposes to some standard knight of style. And this is very good for white, I believe. And even though engine says it's 0, it's cool, but white has a very clear target. White has has to expand queenside and promote pawns to the queen, but black has to design something and attack, start to attack. Otherwise, if black plays passively, black will lose. If engine says is a 0-0, it's not 0-0 human voice. Is a different, and here there are lots of tactics. For example, this you can play that move. Even that move is possible. Then if you go to something like, okay, I play bishop there attacking the knight, it doesn't help. Yes, and as you can see, engine says that give up the bishop. Okay, not talk too much about variations, but I played knight c4. Well, let's keep the engine open. I didn't want to have engine open to show my blunders or mistakes, but it's all fine. Hopefully I don't have many blunder and mistakes, and I didn't want to hide them, but I don't want to focus on them because of engines. So I played knight c3, and they played a6. As he didn't want to go to knight of. Usually someone who plays Kalashnikov doesn't want to play standard knight of, so they don't let you to play knight d4, d5 and destroy the center. So I go back, and then a standard move is exactly this b5 move to fork the knights. So I have no choice but to move the knight. You can see these are very forcing moves. Like I have no other choice. Bishop attacks the knight, and this is a little bit passive. Maybe it was better to play rook b8, because his plan is to push that pawn, that b pawn, and harass my knight. But this lets me to defend my knight, make escape square for my other knight, expand my pawn, and everything is good for now. And yeah, as you can see, after this move, before this move was 0-0, but this is the only good move of the white, c4, and it is +1 according to engine. And this is really the only good move, and as I explained, it has many benefits. Developing pawn, occupying center, opening escape room for one knight. When pawn pushes to knight, knight can go to c2 right now. Before that, it didn't have such a good place. And yeah, and there is nothing bad with this move. So black has to continue, and it is forcing move again. Black capturing this pawn is very bad. There is this time if knight goes there is nothing attacking this knight, and no, even if bishop takes is so fine. Anything is good for white. It's very passive. The problem is that taking that pawn is just helping development of white. So pushes forward, and here, yeah, as engine suggests, there is a tactic. Like I can attack the knight, and when they defend the knight, I can grab this pawn. But this, I didn't want to fall into possible complications because I'm not expert of Kalashnikov variation. I know how to play against it, and I don't know how to develop general plan, but I don't know all the details. So I just retreat the knight, and still is a very good move. And he has to defend the pawn. This time there's no joke, we will take it, because both knights are attacking the pawn. It's very nice to place a knight at b4, and that's awesome. So I reinforced the defense of my c pawn, also prevented his b3 push. I didn't want to let him to push b3. Like I didn't want, the engine says go for this line, but I'm not interested in that because if I go for something like that, he could push here, even though engine says it's plus many for me, but I didn't want to let him have any counterplay. Okay, not exactly at this moment. First, he should defend that pawn, a6 pawn, but at some time he wants to push this pawn. I decided to prevent it as soon as possible. So what I played was just simply playing b3, and I think I'm much better. And you may don't see why I'm much better. And I didn't develop more pieces. I didn't develop. I didn't cancel even. And why I'm better? The main reason is that I have the space. I occupy the space, and I have many targets. And as you can see, my c pawn could be a dangerous pawn pushing forward. His d pawn is backward. So after some standard developing moves, here I had to decide. I thought about this move, whether I retreat to h4 or go to e3. e3 was good because allowing my knight to go to b6 at some point later, but it wasn't that good because knight at b6 didn't have any target, or even bishop at b6 didn't have any target. Again, e3, bishop e3 was good because at some point if I castle king side and then push the f pawn, he doesn't have some queen checks that to attack my king. But I saw all of this and I thought about it, but I said that okay, here at this moment at h4 I have a target and I don't want to think too much long plan. So I had a target. I had to I forced his queen to move. Also, his pieces are scrambled. Like he cannot move the knight, and then he cannot move the bishop. To move the knight, he first has to move the queen, and I have time to develop my pieces. And after some development moves, I castled. My opponent castled, and I put the queen there attacking the pawn. And it's not just attacking the pawn, also preparing pushing f4. And what I thought was that he exactly plays the engine move, engine suggestion. And for the engine suggestion, I had in mind to play f4 anyways, because I wanted to undermine his pawn structure. Also, I didn't want to let his bishop to enjoy playing against my queen. So, but he didn't. He went for attacking my bishop. I said, okay, take your time. I will grab your pawn. Yeah, engine says take with the bishop first and then grab the pawn. Oh, that's too much of details. Again, engine suggests go back. It says forget about this pawn, but he gave up a pawn. One main reason that he gave up this pawn was that he also maybe thought about playing bishop g5, but he said that then after some exchange of pawn and pieces, what happens is that I have very strong pawn structure in the queen side, and he will end up to having a very weak pawn at d6, and this pawn will be target for the entire game. And if he doesn't have his black squared bishop, then it will be very bad. So maybe for these reasons he was afraid, and he gave up that pawn and tried to take on my black squared bishop to stop one of the possible attackers to d6 pawn. I took towards the center. Also, one other reason is that if I was taking with the f pawn, I was creating 3 pawn island. No, I have 2 pawn islands. So he attacks my knight for whatever reason I don't understand. My knight anyway either goes. I thought about to go to c2, but Because my knight at this moment is much stronger than his bishop. Of course, his bishop doesn't have any target, no target. All my pawns are invited squares, true, but it cannot reach the pawn chain, a sort of pawn chain. And it is just, this bishop is acting like a tall pawn. But I said that I'm good, I'm up a pawn, and what I want to do, I want to push my pawns and make them queen. And if you are so brave to take it, then take it. He didn't. At this point, I was thinking whether I should push or not, but I'm not engine. I cannot calculate all the details and possible tricks that happens in the game. So I said that let's defend the pawn. Let's defend the pawn. He started to strike in the center. The main reason that he do, you see engine says that no, I'm +3. I immediately took that pawn. The main reason that he do that is that he doesn't have any counterplay. This is the main reason people collapse. So you should give away every counterplay from your opponent to force them to collapse and make mistake. Otherwise, if they don't make mistake, you will lose. You will make mistake. We are all human and we make mistakes. So we win by mistakes of our opponents. And to make chance of, so we should play such that we improve the chance of forcing our opponent's mistakes. And for that, you should take control of the game as much as you can, and especially in this variation of Sicilian Kalashnikov, it's very easy in a sense that white can grab a lot of space in the queen side especially, and then slowly but surely start to take advantage of his superior position. And he collapsed. He first gave up that pawn, and here I didn't follow engine suggestion. I just took my pawn. What is my plan? Very easy, just queen the pawn. And yeah, this king move was natural. Okay, engine doesn't suggest, but it's clear that I want to put my bishop on b3, and it's better to get away from x-ray of my bishop. You don't know what happens in future. And I put my bishop in b3, and he out of nowhere finds some useless moves. I don't know. I think the main reason was that he wanted to play knight e5 and then knight d6, d3, sorry. Anyways, I double the rook. I want to attack the weak pawn of my opponent. One extra pawn, two extra pawn are not enough. He starts his plan, brings the knight in. I attack his bishop. Engine suggests that at this moment I was thinking to go to d4, but then I thought that okay, maybe I should attack his bishop because his e pawn is very weak. If it's the only defender of this pawn, which is the bishop, goes away, then I'm very happy. But it wasn't a good decision, and he didn't play the best move. And then I immediately play even d4. As you can see, at this moment I have a clear plan of pushing my pawns. He has no counterplay, and he's afraid of possible moves like knight take f5 bishop, and he blundered. He blundered the full piece. Find the blunder, pause the video and find the blunder. Right, queen takes knight, and there is no good move against it. Game continued 1 or 2 moves later, and then he completely collapsed. He blundered next piece and resigned. Hope you enjoy, and next time tell me how you force your opponents to make blunders. Bye.